I love my village. I personally feel that it has something unique to it. I love my people, I love my soil of this village, the nature that I am brought up with. Of course, my village is blessed with a beautiful sea beach and beautiful fields around. So I'm born and brought up in this village, in this unique ambience, which has reflected in my literature also.
गोवा का अपना एक कल्चर है ये इस भारत देश में, जबकि भारतीय संस्कृति और लैटिन संस्कृति का इसका एक यहाँ मेलाप होता है। हम कहें कि ये इंडियन और लैटिन कल्चर का एनकाउंटर भी है, मुठभेड़ भी है और समन्वय भी है। और इस मुठभेड़ और समन्वय का एक सुरेख संगम दामोदर मावजो के कथाओं में या उपन्यास में दिखाई देता है।
I do think that, what is interesting and important about Goa is exactly this, that, it's the Goans. They're very cosmopolitan, they're very interested in the world. They have a very rich history, and a rich history which comes from connections with many different places. And I think we see all of those things in Damodar's work.
He grew up in Majorda, which is a predominantly Catholic environment. And he feels that his family never went into exile during the hard times of conversion. And he has proof.
And my family belonged to this village since nearly 500 years, maybe more. Because when the church had dug into the history of this village, my forefathers' name appeared in the list of Gaonkars.
Most of his stories are set actually in the Catholic community that he lives in, which is in Majorda, but some of them have been set in the Gulf and other places. In all of these, he displays remarkable acuity, his observation, his attention to detail.
All the characters that have peopled my stories or my novel, most of the characters I have met across the counter. Mine is a traditional shop where I sell everything that the village requires. And at this shop, most of the people who come, they are the people of my village, people who know me and whom I know. So sometimes they come and even share their own emotions with me. Sometimes there are family problems, they used to come and discuss with me. Sometimes seek advice from me. Sometimes just simply, get rid of their own tensions by talking to me. So somehow all these people, all the characters which have entered my stories are the people whom I have met at the shop.
And you know what happens in shops? You chat, you gossip, you share your problems, you share your joys. So he participated in a larger culture than the culture into which he was born.
I know he loves saying it, I'm a shopkeeper. So, and I always tell him, yes, okay, I know. You take pride in saying it, but you should take more pride in saying that I'm a writer. So a writer doesn't become, the writing is not the earning with every writer in India. So he or she has to do a job somewhere.
हमारा जो कोंकणी भाषी परिवार है उसमें दामोदर मावजो को भाई कहते हैं और सचमुच में दामोदर मावजो आज के कोंकणी साहित्य में बड़े भाई की भूमिका निभा रहे हैं.
Damodar Mauzo is one of the most important writers of modern times, especially post-liberation Goa.
He is, I think, first of all, a great crusader of Konkani language. That's how I had met him in the beginning, in the Sahitya Akademi function, or Katha function, I think that's where I had met him first time. And he works like a crusader for the language, and the way he loves his language, and the way he loves Goa. First of all, it is spread all over his writing.
Bhai Mauzo is widely acknowledged as one of the finest writers in Goa today. I would go a bit further than that. To me, I think he is the greatest living Goan writer, though he has never sought such a claim or in fact been acknowledged as such.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I read his work before I met him, and Carmeline was absolutely a delightful discovery.
Carmeline tells the story of a Goan woman who decides to go to Kuwait as a domestic worker so that she can support her daughter growing up in Goa. However, she eventually becomes the mistress of her Kuwaiti landlord. When Carmeline returns home to her Goan village after many years, she finds that her acquired prosperity has dramatically transformed her social position.
It brought to the Konkani literary world a certain comfort level with the structure of the novel itself.
But I remember reading Carmeline as first as sociology, as a kind of look into another world, because the other thing that the bourgeois do not do is that they do not go and take on blue-collar jobs in the Gulf. If you go to the Gulf at all, you go because you're going to be an accountant, or you're going to be a lawyer, doctor, engineer, one of those professions that you would as happily do at home, except that the argument is that you're going to make a lot more money. Carmeline is a maidservant. Carmeline is not just a maidservant, but she's a woman, a single mother. She's fighting a huge battle to keep her daughter from the lifestyle that she is. And she's also her employer's mistress. It seems as if everybody knows this through the course of the book, which is a startlingly sophisticated way of doing it. A startlingly sophisticated look into the interior world of how we treat servants, not just in India, but everywhere across the world.
I think the thing that to note about Damodar Mauzo is that he's certainly the first, if not the only one, who has written about this with a sense of the human dimension and the human sacrifice, the human complexity of these lives, of the migrant as a lonely man there, or the migrant woman who is lonely here, heading a household on her own, having to deal with things, having to deal with temptations, having to deal with flirtation from other men who see a single woman. I mean, there are many human dimensions.
Until such time, I think on the Konkani literary scenario, a person belonging from one community had not taken such a deep and lasting glance at the cross-section of the other community. What I mean is, being a writer who is brought up in a Hindu ethos, it is really admirable that he could portray in Carmeline the whole gamut of the coastal life of Goa. And at the core of this coastal life is the lower middle class Christian society.
I think people who live in sort of the interior of India don't actually realize how intimate the connection is between the West Coast generally and the Gulf. I mean, it's literally like a sort of commuting connection.
The traumas of migrant life have very rarely been written about in Goa, although the migrant experience is central to the Goan Catholic upward mobility. absolutely centric. It used to be it used to be called a money order economy for years before liberation.
Burgiti Muji. These are my children. It's a short story and it shows the kind of attachment and love that an elderly couple, particularly the older woman, is able to develop for the trees that she has, helped grow. The coconut trees. Coconut tree is supposed to be the Kalpa Vriksha of Goa. The entire Goan life surrounds the coconut tree. But these trees in that story are so significant because symbolically in her psychological world, they represent her 3 children.
So the connection that people here in Goa have with nature, with their trees, with their fields, with the cows and buffaloes and plants and pets and animals around, the flora and the fauna, these are exemplified very strongly in Bai's story.
And I was carried away by the sentiment of family attached to a plant or to a tree. As we go with the children and the children grow around us, so are the trees which grow around us. You've seen a tree when it was small. And when you come back after college, you see the tree has taken height. Then you go away for your job or migrate somewhere and then come back Sunday and it's a big, huge tree outside your house. So you have grown with that tree like a family member, like you have seen your family members growing.
Damodar sent me actually the manuscript of Tsunami Simon. Again, I think it's such an innovative kind of work, I mean, which the sorts of interests that Damodar has are so unusual, they're so much, they're so different from the usual sorts of literary subjects that one sees. I mean, this particular book, it was such an exciting and interesting idea.
Mauzo's fiction apparently looks to be always dwelling on character. His titles, more often than not, try to bring out the ethos and the concerns and the issues of character living in his environment. But he has his ear to the ground when it comes to the larger issues that concern and confront the society. In Carmeline, it was the migration that was necessitated to an alien land for the sake of petrodollars, which was so important, and the compromises involved. In Tsunami Simon, it is the struggle with the shift in economy from manual boating, which the fishermen did for their livelihood, to the challenge posed by the mechanized boating.
He doesn't shove the stories into your face and say, oh, you must correct this is wrong, that is wrong. No. He just tells you, I am going to tell you a story.
Basic story is about Simon, who on vacation goes to Tamil Nadu and caught in tsunami, and somehow he manages to survive because of his instincts and because of his skills, swimming, and the alert mind he has. So he comes out of it. But as a 12-year young boy, he does not know how to go ahead. I mean, face the problems. Particularly, he leaves the camp. He's already in the camp, refugee camp like. And then he suddenly one day leaves the camp to come home, and he doesn't know how to get back home. He's a young boy man. So his trial and tribulations of this young man as he travels back home.
Ole revik akardit an kot banta. Baldet reum chupun ulfati kurun vuirukalta.
Shaping the wet sand, I begin to build a fort. Packing buckets with wet sand and upturning them, I raise the battlements. Neat, majestic towers rise in the four corners. With the little spade, I sculpt the main gate. Pressing the plastic molds of wet sand against the walls, I beautify them. And a truly beautiful fort is erected. Shami gets up. Come on, let's go now. Do you know the time? It is indeed late. But Ajay and Munni are reluctant to leave. Even I hesitate. We have invested so much time, labor and love to build this sand castle. It seems so difficult to abandon it to the elements and just leave. Shami gets irritated. Ajay, Munni, will you guys get up? Otherwise I'll go home alone. I am the first to stand up. Ajay gathers up his bucket, spade and bowl. Are we supposed to leave this castle here and go? Queries Ajay, tearfully. Munni promptly replies, of course, you were supposed to take back only the bucket and other things that you brought. The sand was always here. How can we take it? And what's there? If we built this castle, we have to leave it here and go. The people will all admire it and say, what a beautiful castle. Right, Daddy? I hug Munni tight. My little Munni, wise beyond her years, has dispelled the shroud of gloom that has encompassed my heart.
माओजो सिर्फ लेखक नहीं है. आप जानते होंगे सभी लोग कि कोंकणी भाषा में एक दीर्घ संघर्ष करना पड़ा. कभी भाषा या बोली के नाम पर, कभी लिपि के नाम पर, और वो संघर्ष हमारे पीढ़ी तक आ चुका.
Damodar Mauzo entered the Konkani movement as a college student in Mumbai. But when the scene shifted to Goa, he was equally active as a writer and as a fighter.
All the while during the Portuguese rule, Konkani was sidetracked because nobody considered Konkani as a major language. And when India got independence and states were formed on linguistic basis, Goa was not part of India. So Konkani got sidelined. Goa is the homeland of Konkani. Though Konkani is spoken also in diaspora, people in Karnataka and Kerala and Mumbai. But the homeland is Goa, which was until then a colony. Goa was liberated about 17.5 years after India got independence. So recognition came very late. So we had to catch up with the rest of the Indian literatures.
In the pantheon of Indian languages, Konkani has finally carved a niche for herself. And the credit for this goes to a generation of young writers, a battery of young writers, amongst whom Damodar Mauzo occupies a very focal position.
He tells me, ये मराठी से आया है, ये कोंकणी से आया, ये कन्नड़ से आया, ये word, ये किस तरह से, how Konkani got its own independent form, करते करते after the struggle and all that, and how the culture of Goa, the religion of Christianity and its influences and its shadows and its shades, how this spread over a language and a living in Goa. I think nobody could explain it better to me than Damodar.
तागेल्यो बराबरच्यो इश्टिणी अश्यो कोणूच नसल्यो आशिल्लें तें एक एल्सा.
Carmeline didn't have too many friends except for Elsa, who lived close by. Elsa was slightly older than her, but the two girls got along very well, and they would sit and gossip whenever they had time to spare. Their lessons in school and household chores kept Carmeline busy the rest of the day. The realization that her childhood had ended the day Agnel left for Bombay grew more intense with every passing day as Carmeline's youth began to bloom. Elsa would tease her constantly. The tender fruits that took shape just the other day have ripened into mangoes. She would laugh as Carmeline would be overcome by shyness. That's enough now, she would protest, feeling quite pleased all the same.
I don't do it deliberately, but I think I find more stories with women than men. They are the people who face the atrocities.
I mean, he's an extremely sensitive writer, and maybe the women in his family have sensitized him. You don't want to give them credit? Well, I would.
No, I just think he has the woman's heart, you know, because in fact, both my parents have been androgynous, and they have both been perfect example of a male and a woman put together in a one body. But Papa shows it more often, I suppose.
There was a play staged by college, Tuzai Tuzapashi, written by the famous Marathi writer, playwright, P.L. Deshpande. So I acted in it, and my wife, now my wife, Shaila, also acted in the same play opposite me. And then we became friends, and the friendship turned into love. So we had a long affair. I'm married for more than 40 years now. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning. वाव, बरी जाली आं. हय. पूण मरे एक हे आसा, हे पळय हांगाचे जे सेंटेन्स आसा न्ही हे हां हे हां हे हांगा येवंक जाय. हां पळय.
Okay. Supposing if I get, as I said, a beige, a seed for a story, then overnight, same day I have to sit, start writing and finish it.
That it takes me longer to translate a story of Damodar Mauzo's than definitely than what the time taken by him to write that story, because Mauzo is a very prolific writer as well as a very quick writer. He writes straight away when the germ of an idea hits him. He sits and he completes 10 to 1. He completes the story.
So clearly works for Damodar that he's able to sit down and just write a story in 2 hours. It's something I immensely admire. It's not something I could do, but I just immensely admire that. And in his case, yes, I mean, it certainly seems to come together.
You know, who would I like to be when I'm that age? I'd like to be Damodar Mauzo. I'd like to carry my achievements with grace. I'd like to be friendly with Gulzar Sahab on one side and with Jerry Pinto on the other side.
He's one of those people who's built literary bridges between Goa and the rest of India. So, you know, the Sahitya Akademi often has major events in Goa. And Damodar is, I think, the moving force behind this, one of the moving forces certainly, behind the Sahitya Akademi in Goa.
So he walks very gently and he speaks very softly, but his impact is incalculably large.
I asked him may I sit on this chair? I said, can you take a... Sunilda was also there at that time, Sunil Gangopadhyay. He was also that evening there. I said, can you just take a photograph of mine, please? He said, it will be honor to me. I said, you don't know, someday, I must say that I sat on the chair of the Chekhov. I sat in the chair of Chekhov, from where Chekhov used to write stories. So it will be a pride for me someday telling my children and my friends that this is where Mauzo used to sit and write his short stories.
जीवित सुखी करे शीतल काछे